I'm Jess, and today I'm here to share with you my top 14 books of 2014. The first 9 are in no particular order, and then I've put the top 5 in my top 5 order, like they are the top 5. It's really hard to pick this little amount of books from the amount of books I've read. I've read a total of 118 books this year. I've loved most of them. And I'll link my Goodreads challenge thing down below, so you can, if you're interested in the books I read and what I rated them, you can see down below. So let's get started with the top 14. So at number 14 is a series that I read both the books of this year, and that is the Vivian versus the Apocalypse duology. I do say I preferred the second book, Vivian versus America. This follows a girl called Vivian who is stuck in a sort of religious apocalypse where some guy predicted that people would be taken, and that after people were taken to heaven, supposedly, the apocalypse would be nigh. And her parents are taken, and she's stuck trying to figure out whether this prophet was really telling the truth. I loved both these books in the series, and the characters are so good, and I definitely recommend you pick up Vivian versus the Apocalypse first and then Vivian versus America, but they're both excellent. So number 13 is one that really made me think. It's less of a fun one and more of a serious one that probably is highly influenced by the fact that I'm an English student, and that is The Giver by Lois Lowry. I love this one because it made me think so much. It's one of the first, it's quite an old dystopian, and a lot of people in America read it for school, which I can see how it'd be a really good book to discuss in class, and I wish I did it. So it's about a world where nobody has the memories of the history, and then one person is given the memories, and this person is about to die. Well, he's quite old, and so they're having to pick a receiver of the memories, and this is a 12-year-old boy named Jonah who is the protagonist of this story, and that's kind of all I can give away because it is only a 177 page book, so there's a lot of things that are spoilery in this book that would help to explain the plot. So this next book is a book that I've read a lot of the author this year. I've read 8 books of his, so it was hard to choose a favourite, but I've chosen Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. I read the whole of the Percy Jackson series and up to this one of the Heroes of Olympus series this year, but I do say this one was my favourite. I loved the little romantic bits between Percy and Annabeth, but I also loved Last Olympian a lot, so I think this one was up for a real hard bargain with The Last Olympian because I loved that one. But it was so hard to pick, but you have to read them all obviously to get to this one because this is the 3rd book in the 2nd series, so you've got to read a lot to get to this one, and it's quite big. The next one is one I read really recently. Actually, it's not been in a wrap-up yet because I read it in December, and that is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. I loved this one so much. I finished it in a day, and I've been in a reading slump, so that was really a spectacular triumph for me. And it's just so adorable. It's about this teenage girl whose parents are away for Christmas, and her brother wants to get her out of his hair, so he kind of sets her up trying to find a boyfriend with this notebook in a bookstore, and Dash picks it up and does the dares, and then instead of just giving her his email address like he was supposed to, he gives her a set of dares, and they continue across New York City sending each other to different places. It was really good, and I really loved being able to sort of explore New York with Dash and Lily, who were born and bred New York people, and so they knew the city and would moan about it, Dash moaned about it, and Lily sort of was just amazed by everything in the city. But I really just adored it. It was so good. The characters were so real, and I love it so much. The next one is another duology that I've read both the books of this year, and that is the Fearsome Dreamer duology, and I'm going to say I enjoyed The Illusionist more, but this is about a girl, and it's sort of in 2 different worlds. There's the really there's the world that has no technology at all, and then there's this world with loads of technology and people with magic powers, and it's really, really good. It's Rue is from the world with no technology, and you sort of get to explore both those worlds. In this one, you explore the first world with no technology, and then in this one you explore the world with technology, and it's really good to see the contrast between them both. I definitely say check these out. I loved them so much. So another 2 books series that I read both the books of, and that is The Beautiful and the Cursed and the Lovely and the Lost by Paige Morgan, and I love these books too. They were so good. It's sort of like Cassandra Clare's books, but with gargoyles, and that's how I'm going to sell them, because they're so good, and they're really good. They're about these 2 girls. It's sort of like the Infernal Devices in the time period, and they move to this abbey and find that they have gargoyles on their roofs, and that the gargoyles are really real people who died in ways that were sacrilegious, and so they've been deemed to be gargoyles. It's really good, really interesting, and a good romance between both. There's like 2 different romances, so like this girl and her boyfriend, and then the sister and her love interest. It's really, really good. I really love it. Definitely check these out. The next one is Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Dellaria, and oh my god, I have a review for this, but I gushed and gushed and gushed about it at the time, so I'm not really going to say too much because I feel like I'm annoying people when I gush about books. So this one's about a girl who sister dies, and she starts writing letters to famous dead people who her sister loved to try and get over it, and it's really, really good. You learn a lot about the main character and her sister, and what were the events that ended up in her sister's death. It's lovely, but so sad, and it was relatable for me, but not for everybody. So yeah. So the next one is Unremembered by Jessica Brody, and this one was such a shock to me. It's about a girl who is involved in a plane crash, but she can't remember anything. She can't remember getting on the plane, she can't remember her name, and she doesn't think she was in the plane. Everybody else in the plane crash died except for her, and she hasn't even got a scratch on her, which nobody can figure out why. Then this boy comes along and tells her her name is... I've forgotten her name. Basically tells her name and says that they were once in love with each other, and she sort of has to figure out if that's true. And I thought this was a contemporary book, and it's definitely not. It's a science fiction book all the way, and that shocked me, but was so pleasantly surprising, and I really, really enjoyed it. So definitely this one, another one to pick up. And the last book is another one that I have read really recently, and I've got a review of it recently, and that is The Destructible History of Frankie Lando Banks by E. Lockhart. This is another one that really made me think, and definitely took a different level of YA that I've not really been introduced to that much before. Sort of like on the level of John Green, but sort of more like thought-provoking than John Green, and less like cutesy. It's about a girl who goes to a really prestigious boarding school, and has this boys club where the boys do pranks on people and stuff, and she sort of tries to take control of the boys club. It's really good, and it's just so good. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil. So now we're getting into the top 5, which are actually my top 5. So yay! At number 5 we have Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I also loved Landline by Rainbow Rowell, but I decided I could only have one book in the list, so I decided on Attachments because I really like this one more. It's about a girl who is emailing her best friend, and this this man who is whose job is to read the company emails and decide if people are using them incorrectly, and he starts reading their emails, and even though they're writing social emails, he doesn't tell them off for it because he falls in love with one of them and is really amused by their conversations. It's so funny and so adorable, like all of Rainbow Rowell's books. It's so realistic as well. The characters are just so amazing. Definitely. Any Rainbow Rowell book I definitely recommend. My next, number 4, is Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi. As you can see, I love this one a lot. And if there was an award in this for the most loved romantic interest, Warner. Warner is so good. I loved Warner. I'm gonna reread this series in the new year because I just loved it so much, and I just kind of really want to experience it again. But it was so lovely, and it was an amazing end to the trilogy. I really enjoyed it. And I definitely cried a few times during it too. So for book number 3, I have In the Afterlight, which is the conclusion to the Darkest Minds trilogy. I read In the Afterlight and Never Fade this year, but I really enjoyed the conclusion the most, and it was just a really satisfying conclusion, and this is probably my favourite series ever. I really, really enjoy this series. I'm definitely gonna, it's one of those series I'm gonna reread every year. I reread the whole series this year, and I just loved it. But I read Never Fade in the Afterlife for the first time this year, and I just loved it so much. The series is just heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time throughout the books. It's so good, and the characters are so real. I just love them so much. I can't even gush about this as much. Liam is the best book boyfriend I could wish for. I know I've already said that about Warner, but Warner's sort of like went from like I hate him so much to I love him so much, and it's so weird. Whereas Liam's just been like I love him the whole time. And so for number 2, this is another series where I've read the whole series this year, and that is the Anna and the French Kiss series. So it's Anna and the French Kiss, Lola and the Boy Next Door, and Isla and the Happily Ever After. For my number 2 is Lola and the Boy Next Door. I don't know why, I just I love them all, but I think I've decided this one is my favourite. Just because I love the characters the most. I think I need to reread them all just so I can decide, but I think I love this one the most. Not sure. They're just contemporary romances. There's not a lot to say about them. They're just adorable. Don't let the titles make you think, oh, these are horrible books. They're just gonna be just cute rom-com books. But they are kind of like a rom-com. They're just adorable, and I love them so much. But they're not without depth. They have got depth. They're just lovely. I love them. Oh, love them. I didn't realise how much my bookshelf was going to be messed up this video. So this, for number 1, I could not decide out of the 3 books in this series, so I'm just kind of holding up them all. And that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor, and I loved all 3 of these books, and I did not expect them to be my number 1 of the year. They just, they crept up on me. They were lovely, and they just... I really avoided reading Daughter of Smoke and Bone for so long because I thought I was going to hate it. And then I read it and I was just like, why did I think I was going to hate this? It's so lovely and I loved it so much, and had to buy the other 2 in these pretty covers because why not? And so that was my top 14 of 2014. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.